Hello and welcome to Health in Focus with Dr. Laura. Lovely to have your company with me today. And today I'm doing a programme called Health Media Watch. Now, this is going to be a regular slot in the Health in Focus programmes because it really just covers what the media, whether it's the newspapers or social media, are saying about health topics and my take on it based on research and experience. I know in our mornings we talk about lots of health issues and lots of times, and so this is something that we're used to doing in Revelation TV, but it's very difficult for me to interact with our mornings because usually at the time that our mornings is being done, I'm working. And sometimes when I watch a repeat of our morning, I think, oh, I wish I was around just to quickly phone Yemi and Leslie and say da-da-da-da to give my opinion, but it's just not practical. I'm working at 10:30, I'm right in the middle of my morning surgery on most days, so it's really not practical. But I thought it would really be good to use these opportunities to actually look back at certain articles in the news and actually enlarge on them and just to give you a little bit more insight from a medical point of view. So that's what I'll be doing today. And today I'll be covering two topics. And the first one is taken from the Daily Mail, and the headline says, revealed the GP surgeries where 3/4 of women miss their cervical tests as health chiefs blame fear and embarrassment. It goes on to say that just 13.8% of patients have been tested in the past 3 years at a London clinic, and the decline is blamed on women being embarrassed and scared about the procedure. As you know, the NHS offers a cervical screening process to women between the ages of 25 to 64. Every 3 years from the age of 25 to 49, and increases to every 5 years, thank goodness some women will be saying, from the ages of 50 to 64. So for 25 to 49, a cervical smear is done every 3 years, and then from 50 to 64, it's done every 5 years. As a woman myself, I know how embarrassing it is and how uncomfortable it can be to have a cervical smear. And women are literally dying from embarrassment. And this is one area of prevention that is so easy to rectify. And I really would like to encourage women, if you're in that age range and you are sexually active, then please, please, please go and have your cervical smear. These days, in most surgeries, you will have a female practice nurse who will be able to do the cervical smear, and a few doctors, and again, female doctors, are also trained to do the smear. And I would really like to encourage you to take this up, even if you are embarrassed, because, you know, embarrassment kills in situations like this. So, as I said, 3/4 of women at some surgeries have missed the opportunity to have their cervical smears. In one particular northwest London practice, 13.8% of patients between the ages of 29 to 49 have only been tested. That's too low. Those figures should be way, way, way higher than that. Nationally, just 71% of patients have had their latest smear test when it was due. And this actually has been a decline because in 1997, up to 82% of women had this smear. So there's been a decline in the last 12 years almost of women taking up the smear. The decline, it says, has been blamed on women being too embarrassed and scared about the procedure, as well as a lack of available appointments. And there's also some concern about funding and all the rest of it. But I can assure you, if you want to have a smear, you can get to have a smear within 3 to 6 months at your GP surgery. So please, as I said, do go and have your smears done. Please, please, please. Cervical cancer, this is statistics. Cervical cancer is the most common form of this disease of cancer in a woman who's under the age of 35. There are 3,000 new cases a year in the UK and 1,000 deaths. So it's so important to get this done. And if we all remember Jade Goody, who is a UK reality TV star, and in America we had Yvette Wilson, who also died of cervical cancer. These deaths were preventable if these women had been screened appropriately early enough and got the results quickly as well. So again, I would like to encourage you to please go and have the test. Now, I'm going to just show you a video of a sad situation in which a woman who was affected by cervical cancer, and this is her testimony.
I just remember my fiance just holding my hand because I had just gone completely cold and still.
My name's Mandy. I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, stage 2B, in October last year.
My name is Maya, and last year I was diagnosed with high-grade pre-cervical cancer abnormalities.
When I walked in to see the consultant, I knew it was quite serious by the file and the size of the file he had on his desk.
It was literally the day that just changed my life completely. It's just one of those parts where we don't realise how important it is until something happens to it.
And after examining me, he told me there and then that he was 99% sure it was cervical cancer.
In the following weeks, everything was just a whirlwind. Going to hospital, being really confused.
I went through the testing, I had biopsies, and then I had a hysterectomy, plus I had spread into my lymph nodes, and that was all removed.
I was trying to remind myself, breathe, just breathe, and that was just the one thing I was focusing on, as she was just talking on the phone, trying to book me in and make sure that I could have the surgery.
I always give the example of telling my 10-year-old that, sorry. I had missed, I think, 2 smear tests due to work commitment. I lead a very busy life, and I always had a good excuse in my head to justify why I shouldn't go.
I just kept thinking, why didn't I do this sooner? Why?
After being through the medical side after diagnosis, I would strongly recommend that you go for the smear test.
There are so many different repercussions in so many different areas of your life just from this one thing. I don't know if, now that I'm married, if I can have children.
I think everyone knows that a smear test isn't pleasant, but it is bearable and it's over so quickly. So many of my friends are scared of having the test. They don't want to go because it's embarrassing, and I felt exactly the same. It absolutely isn't as bad as you would imagine.
Feeling anxious about the unknown is completely normal, but it's better to know than not know, because once you get it done, there's no more unknown. I do understand the pressures of being in a busy job and feeling really bad because there are lots of people that depend on you. But you know what? You need to look after yourself so that all those people that depend on you can still depend on you later.
I think there's a massive mindset of it wouldn't happen to me. If you could turn back the clock 6 months, I would say it would never happen to me. And here I am, living my journey, and it did happen to me.
If I hadn't had my screening when I did, I don't know where I'd be right now. It can save lives, it can save your life.
Welcome back. And it could have saved Jay Goody's life, and it could have saved Yvette Wilson's life. So again, I'd like to encourage you to go and have a smear test. I'll confess I've only had 2 smear tests in my life because I became sexually active in my 40s when I was previously married. So I've not had many smear tests. And the last one I had was, I think the whole surgery knew I was having a smear test. So it's not always comfortable, but it's still worth doing. And I really would encourage you to please go and have a smear test. So let's have a look at the statistics again. As I said, over 3,000 new cases every year in the UK. That is 9 every day. Cervical cancer is the 14th most common cancer in the UK, and it's very prevalent in the ages of women between the ages of 25 and 29. It's commoner in women who live in deprived areas, and as you can see, 99.8, that is almost all cervical cancer cases in the UK are preventable. And almost all of those cases are caused by the human papilloma virus. So the message is, if you are young and you're sexually active, go and have your cervical smear test. And as you notice also, that smoking does play a part as well. So the take-home message is, quit the cigarettes as quickly as you can. If you're sexually active at a very young age, you start to become sexually active very young, and as soon as you become sexually active, go and have your smear test. Please do. Please do. But the good news for the over 55-year-olds, in another program, a previous program, I talked about having MOT checks at the doctor's surgery, and I talked about the sort of MOT checks that are available on the NHS. And one of the MOT checks that are available for the over 55s is now being rolled out in all the areas in the UK, and it's a sigmoidoscopy, and the drive for that is to try and detect early cancerous cells in the colon. So people have what they call a sigmoidoscopy, where a telescope, a flexible telescope, you'll be glad to know, is inserted, and they look at the sort of last quarter of the bowel, so in the sigmoid colon, really. And sometimes they can develop, they can discover things in that area like polyps and diverticular, and particular colonic polyps may be a predisposition, a precursor of colon cancer. But also now this age 55 seems to be quite relevant in lots of ways. But an article that I read, and this comes from the Daily Mail, and it says a new sensitive cervical cancer screening test could save millions of women from undergoing smear tests past their 55th birthday. Yay to the over 55s. You still got to have your sigmoidoscopy, but you may not have to have your cervical smear. I'll just read a little bit more. Obviously, at the age of 55, the chances of getting cervical cancer are much lower than in the under 30s age range. Now it says, the article says, now British women are obviously invited for regular smear screening between the ages of 25 and 64, but a new test has been brought in that could make testing past the age of 55 unnecessary. British officials confirmed that government scientists will now study and research this. And it's wonderful. It says that there is a sensitive new test that's been brought into the NHS that could make testing past the age of 55 unnecessary. I can see lots of over 55 women out there saying, yes, Lord. It goes on to say, women who have had a negative test at age 55 had only a 0.5% chance of developing cervical cancer in later life. And results show that from the Lancet Oncology medical journal. So this new sensitive test could be rolled out very soon, and basically watch this space. And I think a lot of women in the over 55 age range who are not probably as sexually active as when they were younger and who've had negative smear tests will be very relieved at this. But I want to encourage you again, if you're sexually active and you are having regular sexual intercourse and you are under the age of 64, then you must have your smear test regularly. And of course, watch the space for the information about the new tests in the over 55s that may not involve you having to have that very uncomfortable cervical smear. Now, you've been watching Health in Focus with Dr. Laura, and now we're going to go to a poem by a lovely lady called Hilda.
Welcome to the Garden Retreat, or should I say, the Garden Treat. Today, I would like to quote a poem for you, and it's called Today. Today is the day that the Lord has made. Today is the day we can choose. Today is the day that we live or die. Today we can win or we lose. Today, the choice is ours to follow him, the Lord of truth, the living word. In humble surrender, we enter in his kingdom and give him our heart. The choice is ours. We can go our own way, live by our feelings, our wants, or what I want to say. Yet, if by his Spirit we say no to our flesh and follow his leading, we enter his rest. A place of such freedom, such glorious light, such peace, such contentment without any strife. A place where in the midst of dark confusion and gloom, we hear Father's voice saying, "My servant, well done." To enter his presence, there's nothing on earth that compares with his glorious gift, so worth. The Son he gave us brings us life if we hear and follow his footsteps. It all seems so clear. Yet the road is narrow and few will find. The choice we make, is Christ Lord of our mind? Many will perish for not knowing his will. Do not harden your hearts, for there is time still. Today, ask our Saviour and make the right choice. Today, Lord, not my will, but I'm hearing your voice. Today, I will love you, I will trust and obey. So enter your rest, Lord, and there I will stay. It says in Deuteronomy, I have set before you life and death, blessing and curses, therefore choose life, that both you and your descendants may live. Thank you for listening today. Hey, if you enjoyed that poem, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you hear when we make new poems. If you'd like to see more content, check our other videos, Facebook page, and website. Thank you.
Welcome back to Health in Focus, and that was the lovely Hilda Holbrook, a lady who's been giving so many poems by God. And I thought that particularly was very poignant today, because we're talking about cervical screening, we're talking about salvation, of course. Her poem is about accepting Jesus Christ as our Saviour and Lord, but it's also relevant because I would like to really encourage women to go out there and get your smear appointments booked today. Don't leave it too late. Now, the next article, and covering on the Media Watch Health in Focus, is about celery juice, and this is taken from the Telegraph, and it says, is celery juice the new health miracle? Well, I can tell you it could be one of them. The article goes on to say, basically, celery juice has been dubbed a miracle potion, is known for ticking up many health boxes, from reducing inflammation to healing eczema. The article goes on to say that the green stuff is having a moment in the spotlight, but is it all it's cracked up to be? A model, Miranda Kerr, drinks it every morning. The wellbeing website Goops calls it a miracle potion and one of the greatest healing tonics of all time. And there are currently more than 67,000 celery juice posts on Instagram. Depending on who you listen to, celery juice either ticks all the health boxes, from reducing inflammation and improving gut health to reducing toxins and bloating and healing eczema. Or is it simply just another superfood sprinkled in the marketing fairy dust, like the Gurry Berries and the chia seeds, etc., etc.? Helen Bond says there's currently no scientific studies or authorized health claims to back up a lot of what is being said. Also, it's a juice, so in terms of getting your 5 a day, 150 mils will only count as one portion, as well as removing a lot of the fiber. Juicing also causes increase in your blood sugar very quickly, and so it spikes your blood sugar. Now, I have to say, celery juice is one of my favorite juices, but I don't tend to have celery juice on its own. I usually have it mixed with other green juices as well. So I have a green juice made up of things like celery, broccoli, parsley, spinach, a little bit of basil, probably parsley. I've mentioned parsley with a green apple, and just to make it a little bit more palatable, and probably a little bit of cucumber in there. But what I actually found is, and as I was studying nutrition and working on different juices and things, I actually, a patient came in to see me who didn't want to go on blood pressure medication. And so when we come back from the video that I'm going to show now, I'd like to talk about how I incorporated celery into this gentleman's diet and how he's actually blood pressure medication free because he has a juice, and one of the ingredients is celery. But first of all, over to Dr. Mandel, who gives a balanced view on celery juice.
Welcome everyone, Dr. Mandel here. I am not just holding an ordinary juice. This is live. This is celery juice. The live enzymes, the salts within it. This is what heals sick people. The living power within this juice can do more than science can ever imagine. This works on a cellular level. What makes the celery juice so unique are these cluster salts. When it's pressed and squeezed, those cluster salts come out of the fiber. These organic cluster salts help the liver go through detoxification. If your stomach is feeling bloated or distended all the time, these cluster salts will help build hydrochloric acid within your stomach. As we get older, our acid diminishes. Now, people are on proton pump inhibitors, acid blockers, because of their heartburn, their indigestion, their reflux. They most likely have low hydrochloric acid. By increasing these cluster salts, as your stomach continues to build hydrochloric acid, the proteins will start to digest better. Guess what? The hydrochloric acid will also kill pathogens, viruses, bacteria, and that will help keep your body healthy. Most vegetable juices are extremely healthy, even mixed with celery juice. But the difference of drinking celery juice by itself, 16 ounces, first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, makes a big difference in helping to detoxify and reduce inflammation in your system. If you can get organic celery, I recommend that first. If you can't, please clean your celery really well. I want to mention that when you buy even organic celery, you may notice that it has a real bitter taste. That's because it's overripe. We know that inflammation is linked to all diseases. But one thing about celery juice is those organic salts help fight inflammation. Celery's anti-inflammatory compounds, luteolin and polyacetylenes, inhibit the enzymes responsible for inflammation and work to lower inflammatory prostaglandins. So why is celery such a powerful anti-inflammatory food? Because it starves the bad bacteria, the yeast, mold, funguses, and viruses that are present in the body, while allowing the good bacteria to thrive. Celery rids the toxins and acids while cleansing the liver and the blood.
Wonderful. Now, I'm not advocating just celery juice, but certainly celery juice is one of the go-to green juices. And if you remember my talk on antioxidants, when I talked about G-bombs and the greens, well, celery is one of those greens that we need to incorporate into our diet. Now, celery juice for blood pressure, well, this actually is a real case study on a patient who I have seen, who has given me permission to talk about them, but although I have not revealed any details whatsoever that could identify them. So, not even the sex. So basically, this is a real patient I saw. They didn't want to have any blood pressure medication. Their blood pressure initially, when I measured their blood pressure, was 160/90, which is much higher than the recommended level. 140/90 is where it's at. They didn't want to have any medication. So I thought, right, I've been doing a lot of research, I've been doing a lot of nutritional courses and things. I knew I had a recipe based on the actions of these particular foods, which actually a lot of blood pressure tablets mimic. And I came up with these couple of juices, which I'd said to the patient, right, go and lose some weight, go and do this, go and do that, but also have these juices as well. In the first month, their blood pressure dropped from 160/90 to 155/82, and in the second month, their blood pressure was completely normal. I still see the patient, and I'm still monitoring the blood pressure, and it remains normal. And of course, this is the blood pressure recipes that I've provided for this patient and a few of other my patients. So what I like to say to you is, why don't you give it a try? And it's quite clear what the recipes are. And you can see that these are all highly rich antioxidant foods. These are God's own created foods. These are nothing artificial at all in any of these. So the greens, and what I'd recommend for the patient was to have the greens in the morning and the reds in the evening. So green juice made up of a handful of watercress, 2 sticks of celery, a pinch of fresh parsley, 1 whole Granny Smith apple, a handful of spinach, 2 inches cut cucumber, and a handful of kale. Blend it all together, squeeze out the fibre, and just have the neat juice. That's how I'd recommend to have it, actually as a juice, not as a smoothie. And of course, the red is even more nice to have, which is a cup of berries, blueberries, 1 beetroot, a handful of red cabbage, half a cup of pomegranate, and a little wedge of watermelon, say about a 6 to 8 inch wedge of the red watermelon. Again, put them all in the blender and juice them, and squeeze out the fibre and juice them. That is worth trying. You've been watching Dr. Laura on Health in Focus. Do contact me on laura@revelationtv.com and let me know what else you want me to talk about, and I look forward to seeing you another time. God bless you.